pregnant woman, abandoned by her husband, rescues an injured man, and it happened to her. Hello, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any stories. Bianca was in her studio, a space full of colors and brushes, with a scent of fresh paint mixed with the fragility of her emotions. She was leaning over an unfinished canvas, her hands holding a brush with the same delicacy as if she were holding on to hope. The colors intertwined in ways that reflected her inner confusion. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't find the inspiration that had once driven her. Staring at the canvas, her memories took her back to happy times with Anthony, her husband. In her mind, the shared laughter and complicit smiles seemed to echo. But now, those echoes were just shadows of a distant past. She looked up and, as she did so, noticed the wedding ring on his finger. The glint of gold seemed to ask her questions she couldn't answer. "How could you leave me, Anthony?" she whispered into the silence of the studio, as if the ring itself could provide an answer. The weight of loneliness became unbearable. A knot tightened in her chest, while tears began to form in her eyes. Then the phone rang, breaking the agonizing silence that surrounded her. Bianca's heart raced when she saw Anthony's name on the screen. With a mixture of anxiety and reluctance, she answered. "Hi, Bianca," said Anthony, his voice sounding distant, almost cold. "We need to talk." "What about?" she asked, trying to remain calm, although she could feel the tremor in her voice. I've decided to move to another city. It's time for me to follow my dream, you know." The coldness in his words made Bianca's world crumble even more. The silence that followed was deep, laden with unspoken words. "What about me? What about our baby?" she asked, her voice now laced with emotion. "I can't stay. I have to do this for myself," he replied, as if explaining something simple and logical. Bianca felt an immense emptiness take over her being. "You're leaving me? Just like that?" The incredulity in his words turned to despair. "I'm sorry, Bianca. I'm really sorry." The call ended with a click, and Bianca was left alone, phone in hand, as if it were the only connection she still had to the world. Reality hit her like an overwhelming wave, and tears began to stream down her face as she let herself sink into a sea of grief. Surrounded by her paintings, which had once been a refuge, they now seemed like just reminders of a broken dream. Outside, dark clouds gathered in the sky, and soon a storm began to form, like a reflection of the emotional storm she was facing. The sound of the rain against the window sounded like a lament to her soul, and Bianca let herself fall to the floor of the studio, crying in despair. "Why is this happening to me?" she screamed, not waiting for an answer, as the sound of the rain intensified, enveloping her in a blanket of loneliness and despair. Bianca's mind revolved around everything she had lost. How could she move on? The idea of becoming a mother terrified her, and the weight of abandonment crushed her. She felt like an artist without a canvas, lost in a world of colors that no longer made sense. The future that had once seemed bright was now shrouded in shadows, and the only thing that remained was the pain of a love that had fallen apart. On a rainy night, Bianca walked through the streets of New York, her body drenched by the insistent rain, while her mind floated between memories and longings. Loneliness consumed her, and every drop that fell seemed to echo the pain she felt after Anthony abandoned her. She searched for inspiration, but all she found was a deep emptiness, a darkness that seemed unquenchable. The art that had once freed her now felt like a heavy burden, and every brushstroke on her canvases became a reminder of what she had lost. After a few minutes of walking, Bianca found herself in a narrow alleyway where the light from the street lamps barely illuminated the wet ground. It was there that her eyes caught sight of a figure asleep under yellowed cardboard. A man with disheveled hair and an untrimmed beard was bent over, as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders. As she approached, Bianca noticed that he had tired eyes, marked by invisible scars that told stories of battles he had faced. "Hi," Bianca said hesitantly. The rain continued to fall, but the man's presence seemed to create a kind of shelter. He opened his eyes slowly, looking at her with an expression of surprise and suspicion. "You shouldn't be here at this hour," he replied, his voice hoarse and low, as if he were recovering from a long silence. "I just needed some fresh air," Bianca said, feeling an inexplicable connection. "Are you all right?" "I'm here." "That's what matters," he replied, trying to stand up but failing. Bianca noticed his fragility and at the same time a silent strength, as if he were fighting something much bigger than life on the streets. "My name is Bianca," she introduced herself, feeling awkward introducing herself in a place like this. "Lucas," he replied, closing his eyes again, as if surrendering to the situation. "The last time anyone cared about me was a long time ago." "Are you an artist?" Bianca asked, recognizing a familiar echo in his voice. Lucas looked at her more closely, as if assessing whether he could trust her. "Yes," he finally confessed. "I was an artist before. All of this." He gestured to the surrounding space, an indication of his losses. "Art is a way of dealing with life, but sometimes it also hurts." Bianca felt a pang in her heart. "Art hurts me too. She hesitated, feeling vulnerable. "I'm pregnant, and my husband left me. I'm trying to deal with it through painting, but I don't know if I'm succeeding." Lucas looked at her, surprised and intrigued. "Then you know what pain is. Pain isn't a choice, but the way we deal with it is. Do you feel alone?" "Yes, very much so. Sometimes I feel like I'm sinking into a darkness that never ends," Bianca confessed, her voice breaking. Lucas' gaze softened and he sat up straighter. "If you need someone to talk to, I'm here. Sometimes you just need a listener," he said, and Bianca felt that simple statement carry immense weight. She wasn't alone in that battle. "Actually, I brought you some food," Bianca said, pulling a sandwich out of her bag. "If you don't mind, I can share." He hesitated for a moment, but then accepted with a slight smile. "Thanks. I haven't eaten well for days." As they shared the sandwich, Bianca realized that there was something special about that moment. Between the rain and the shadows of the alley, a genuine connection was forming. "Why did you become an artist?" she asked, trying to understand more about Lucas' life. "I always wanted to create something that could touch people. But life got in the way. I lost my sister in an attack, and since then, art has become a way of trying to deal with the pain," he replied, the sadness in his eyes revealing an abyss of contained emotions. "That's so painful," Bianca murmured, feeling a deep empathy. "Art can be a form of healing, but sometimes we don't know how to start. Sometimes all we need is someone to understand us. Pain can be a bridge, not just an abyss," Lucas said, and Bianca felt those words resonate inside her. The atmosphere around them seemed to change, and the rain, which once symbolized despair, now became a backdrop for a new beginning. "Maybe we can help each other," Bianca suggested, a shy smile appearing on her face. "I'd love to know more about your art, and I'd love to get to know yours," Lucas replied, and in that instant they both realized that, even in the midst of the darkness, there was a light that was beginning to shine. Bianca and Lucas met in a moment of pain that seemed insurmountable, but the connection that quickly formed between them was a faint light in the darkness. On one of the nights when the rain fell nonstop, Bianca's studio became a refuge, not only for her paintings, but also for the feelings they both carried. Sitting among the paints and brushes, they began to open up to each other, revealing the scars they had tried so hard to hide. "I lost my sister in an attack. I couldn't do anything to save her," Lucas confessed, his voice breaking as he stared at the floor. "Every day, this pain haunts me. It's like I'm always fighting a battle that never ends." Bianca felt the weight of his words. I'm also dealing with loss. Anthony left me just when I found out I was pregnant. I feel like I'm losing a part of myself, a part he'll never know," she replied, her voice trembling. "It's hard to imagine what comes next." "You're going to be an amazing mother," Lucas said, raising his eyes to her, his torn expression beginning to soften. "The pain you feel now can be transformed into something beautiful. Art can be a way to do that." Bianca picked up a notebook from beside her and began to scribble. Her fingers moved quickly, expressing frustrations about her new reality, insecurities about motherhood, and the loneliness that surrounded her. Lucas watched in silence, feeling the intensity of her creativity spring up amidst the pain. Finally, he approached her. "Can I help you?" he asked, looking at the messy scribbles scattered across the page. "Sometimes putting your emotions into a form can be more liberating than you think." She hesitated for a moment, but felt that Lucas' offer wasn't just artistic help, but an extension of her empathy. "Do you really think I can turn this into something beautiful?" Bianca asked, her gaze searching for the sincerity in Lucas' eyes. "Of course I do. Let's work together. Art is a dialogue. It can be a shout or a whisper, but it's always a conversation about what we feel," Lucas replied, encouraging her to open up more. The two began working on a series of paintings that reflected their personal struggles. The vibrant colors and distorted shapes became an expression of their experiences. Bianca painted with anger and sadness, while Lucas sought to capture the essence of his sister in every brushstroke. As the days passed, they became more than just artistic collaborators. They became confidants. One evening, as the moonlight illuminated the studio, Bianca looked at Lucas, who was concentrating on his work. "You know, I never thought I could connect so much with someone after what happened to Anthony. You make me feel that I'm still capable of loving and being loved," she said, her heart racing with the vulnerability she was sharing. Lucas stopped painting and stared at her, the intensity of his feelings reflected in his eyes. "I feel the same way. The pain we carry has brought us together. It's as if we're both learning to heal together through art. I don't know what the future holds, but being here with you makes me believe that there is hope." Bianca smiled, feeling the lightness that the conversation brought. Perhaps art really is our salvation. In the scars we bear, we can find beauty. And at that moment, she realized that, despite the shadows that still surrounded her, there was something brighter emerging in her life, something that could blossom from the pain. With each painting they created together, the connection between them grew stronger, revealing that, even in the midst of pain, it was possible to find a safe space for emotional expression. They were beginning to build something new, a relationship based on mutual understanding and the desire to transform their scars into art. Bianca decided she needed a space to channel her emotions, a place where she could put everything she felt down on paper. So she started working on an art journal, a project that would become her refuge in times of turmoil. Sitting in her studio, surrounded by paints, brushes, and unfinished canvases, she opened her notebook and began to write. "Today, I feel like the world is falling apart around me," Bianca murmured to herself as her hands danced over the blank pages. "The loneliness is dense, almost palpable. What do I do now?" The words came out with the same intensity as the paint flowed from her palate. She didn't care about being perfect. What mattered was the honesty of her feelings. One rainy day, Lucas watched Bianca working on her diary. He was sitting in a corner of the studio, brush in hand, trying to capture the light coming through the window. The sound of the rain beating against the glass served as a melancholy but inspiring soundtrack. He couldn't help but feel drawn to the vulnerability she displayed when expressing her emotions. "You're really putting your heart into this piece," Lucas commented, breaking the silence. He approached slowly, respecting her space. "I can see the pain and beauty in your words." Bianca looked at him, her eyes shining. "Thank you, Lucas. I feel that by writing, bringing to life everything that's inside me. It's as if finally facing my pain." "I understand that," Lucas said, his voice low but firm. "I've been trying to do the same with my paintings. Art is a way of finding peace, however temporary." He hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Recently, I started painting portraits of my sister. It's strange, but I feel that by doing so, I'm reliving memories that I was afraid to face." Bianca was surprised. "Your sister?" She approached him, curious. "What happened?" Lucas took a deep breath, as if preparing to open a wound. "She died in an attack. I was there, but I couldn't save her. It's something that haunts me every day. Sometimes I feel that art is the only way to connect with her." "What do you feel when you paint?" Bianca asked, leaning forward, interested. "A mixture of pain and relief," Lucas replied, his eyes getting lost in memories. "It's as if trying to bring back a piece of her, even for a moment. It's painful, but at the same time, it's liberating." The two spent hours talking, and the connection between them grew with every word they exchanged. While Bianca wrote, Lucas began to sketch a portrait of his sister. The brushstrokes were soft, but carried the intensity of their emotions. They were building a safe space where they could share their struggles without fear of judgment. One evening, as they worked side by side, Bianca noticed the tension in the air. Hearts were beating at an accelerated pace, and the atmosphere was charged with unspoken feelings. Lucas looked at her, his eyes reflecting a mixture of fear and desire. "Bianca, He hesitated, as if weighing up his words. Before he could finish the sentence, Bianca leaned in and, on an impulse, sealed their lips in a soft, unexpected kiss. The world around them disappeared, and in that moment, all that existed was the deep connection they had built. The kiss was a combination of affection and need, a mutual recognition that, despite the scars they bore, there was room for love and healing. When they pulled apart, they were both speechless, but the looks in their eyes said it all. Lucas smiled shyly, as if waking up from a dream. "I didn't expect that," he said, his voice a little shaky. "Neither did I," Bianca confessed, smiling back. "But it was good, very good." She could feel hope welling up inside her, like a new painting about to be created. Their friendship was turning into something deeper, something that could not only heal the wounds of the past, but also give life to a future full of colors and possibilities. And while the sky continued to weep outside, they felt more alive than ever, ready to face whatever came next. The exhibition was about to take place, and Bianca felt a mixture of anxiety and excitement. As she looked at the white walls of the gallery, she imagined how her works could touch people's hearts. With Lucas' help, she had managed to put together a collection that not only represented her individual pain, but also the beauty that could emerge from struggle and overcoming. Each brushstroke was a story, each color an emotion. During the preparations, Lucas was quieter than usual. He observed the works with a distant look, as if lost in his own thoughts. "Are you nervous?" Bianca asked, as she carefully organized the pieces. "A little," he replied, his voice hesitant. "I don't know if I'm ready to be exposed like this. What if people don't understand my art? What if they don't like it?" He looked at Bianca, seeking some confirmation, a word that might calm his insecurities. Bianca approached, taking his arm. "Lucas, this is an act of courage. Your art is beautiful and true. And above all, it's yours. We can't control other people's opinions, but we can free ourselves by sharing our truth. I believe that's what matters." He took a deep breath, trying to absorb her words. "You're right. I'm just afraid of exposing my pain. It's hard to face what I've been through, and now to have it back in public." He hesitated, the words heavy in his throat. "What if I fail?" "You won't fail," Bianca assured him, with a soft smile. "Art is about vulnerability, and he'll be by your side, no matter what. Let's do this together." The day of the exhibition arrived, and the gallery was packed with people. Friends, acquaintances, and even strangers gathered to see the works that Bianca and Lucas had created. The atmosphere was buzzing with anticipation and excitement. As Bianca looked around, her heart was pounding. She didn't just want to show her works. She wanted people to feel the stories behind each one. "Look, that's my favorite painting," one of Bianca's friends exclaimed, pointing to a work that captured the essence of pain and hope. "It's amazing how you've managed to convey that. You're very much alive here." Bianca smiled, but soon felt Lucas' presence next to her. He was watching people's reactions, his eyes now shining with a new confidence. "This is really exciting," he murmured, turning to Bianca. "It's like people can feel what we feel." "Yes," she replied, excited. "That's exactly what we wanted. Art is a bridge between our experiences and the world, and you, Lucas, have a unique ability to do that." As the evening progressed, conversations flowed. People shared their interpretations of the works, and Bianca listened, admiring the way everyone saw and felt the paintings differently. Lucas also received compliments, and the shyness that had previously enveloped him seemed to dissipate. He mingled among the guests, his art coming to life through the words and emotions of the spectators. "You need to hear this." A woman approached Lucas, her gaze enthusiastic. "The way you've portrayed loss and memory in your painting has really touched me. It's as if you've captured a part of my own story." Lucas smiled, surprised at the impact his work was having. "Thank you. I didn't know I could touch so many people. It means a lot to me." He looked at Bianca, who was also listening to the conversation, feeling a joy that warmed her. The evening turned into a celebration of lives, scars, and colors. The pain they both carried began to dissipate in the light of acceptance and love. As the exhibition drew to a close, Bianca and Lucas met in a quieter corner of the gallery. Their gazes met, and a comfortable silence hung between them. "We did it," Lucas said with a genuine smile. "It was more than I could have imagined." "Yes, it was magical." "And this is just the beginning, Lucas. We have so much more to share," Bianca replied, her heart overflowing with hope and gratitude. The connection between the two grew stronger that night, and the beauty of art became a symbol of their individual and collective journeys. They had found the courage to expose themselves, and, in doing so, discovered that the true beauty of life lay in embracing their scars and turning them into vibrant colors of love and overcoming. The phone rang, and Bianca, still in shock after Anthony's message, felt her heart race. Her ex-husband's familiar voice echoed on the other end of the line, bringing up a storm of emotions that she had tried to bury. "Bianca, I want to meet our baby," Anthony said, with a tone that sounded both sincere and manipulative. She remained silent, absorbing the gravity of the proposal, while painful memories of her abandonment assailed her. "Do you think you can just go back like that, as if nothing had happened?" Bianca finally replied, the anger and pain evident in her voice. "I'm not the same as before, Anthony." You left me." He sighed, as if weighing up his words. "I know, and I regret it. But I've changed. Please give me another chance. I want to be a part of your life." Bianca felt a wave of confusion wash over her. His words seemed empty, an echo of the past that she would rather forget. "I need to think, Anthony," was all she managed to say before ending the call, feeling lost. Over the next few days, Lucas noticed a change in Bianca's behavior. He observed her distant expression and the way she avoided looking him in the eye. Used to reading other people's emotions, he decided to confront her. "What's going on, Bianca?" "You seem different," he said, his concern evident. She took a deep breath, finding the courage to open her heart. "I got a message from Anthony. He wants to come back and meet the baby," she confessed, the vulnerability in her voice contrasting with the strength she was trying to show. Lucas frowned, the pain evident on his face. "And how do you feel about that? Do you still have feelings for him?" The question hung in the air, tense and loaded with insecurity. "I don't know, Lucas. He hurt me, but the pressure, the expectations, it all weighs on me," Bianca replied, feeling torn between the need to close a painful chapter and the pressure of an uncertain future. Lucas pulled away a little, sadness taking over his gaze. "I just want you to be happy, Bianca. If that means going back with him, I'll understand. But I can't stay here just to be an option." "No, you're not an option," Bianca said quickly, taking his hand. "You're the priority in my life. I just need to sort this out so I can move on. I need to see Anthony, have closure. I promise you are the one I want by my side." Lucas looked at her for a moment, the pain in his eyes softening a little. "Then do it. Find the peace you need, but know that he'll be here, waiting." Their conversation left Bianca even more confused, but also relieved. She knew that she had to face her past in order to truly free herself. With a new determination, she decided that she would meet Anthony, but not without first preparing herself for the emotional battle it would require. The following afternoon, she sat in her studio, surrounded by her works, and began to create. Each brushstroke was a way of preparing herself for what was to come. "Lucas, can you come here for a moment?" she called out, as he worked on a nearby canvas. When he approached, she looked into his eyes and said, "I'm going to find Anthony, and when I get back, I hope we can move on together, without any more shadows of the past." He nodded, a mixture of pride and concern in his gaze. "You're strong, Bianca, and whatever happens, I'll be here." With that, Bianca felt a surge of courage. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was willing to face it. After all, as she always said, the true beauty of life was in the scars we bear. And now, more than ever, she was ready to turn her pain into art, and her art into freedom. Bianca sat at a corner table in a cozy cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee mixed with the anxiety that consumed her. Her hands trembled slightly as she waited for Anthony. Her heart danced between anticipation and fear, remembering broken promises and wounds that had yet to heal. When he entered, the light filtering through the window seemed to fade, and his presence brought a heaviness that enveloped her. Anthony approached, a nervous smile trying to disguise the guilt that hung between them. "Bianca," he began in a soft voice, almost like a song that had been heard for a long time, "I know things didn't end well, but I've changed. I've really changed." She watched him, looking for sincerity in his eyes, but what she saw was the same mask he always wore. "Changed how, Anthony? Stop being a coward?" The frankness in his voice surprised her, but it was the truth that had been repressed. I've built a new life. I'm in a good place now," he continued, trying to appear secure. I want to meet our son, Bianca. I want to be a part of it. Part of it, Bianca repeated, incredulity shining through every word. You abandoned him before you even knew if he was a boy or a girl. How can I believe that you really care now? Anthony hesitated, his words failing to create the bridge he wanted. I know I made a mistake, but I'm sorry. We can try again, please. Just give me a chance. The anger inside Bianca boiled over. You can't just go back and hope that everything will be all right, because now you feel guilty. I've already moved on. The memory of Lucas wrapped around her like a protective cloak. He was the reason she still believed in the beauty of life, despite the scars. You're with someone, aren't you? Anthony asked, frustration growing in his tone. Is that what's stopping you from listening to me? Bianca took a deep breath, aware that she needed to be clear. Yes, I am. And he makes me happy. He sees me, Anthony. He understands me in a way that you never have. She felt a new kind of strength welling up inside her, a determination that hadn't existed before. You don't need him, Anthony insisted, reaching for her hand. Bianca, I'm the father of your child. That must mean something. She pulled away, the gesture simple but powerful. I don't need you. Not anymore. I'm not the same woman you knew. I'm not your second chance. Anthony's gaze darkened, and the tension reached an almost palpable level. So you're going to leave all that behind? For a man who lives on the streets? Lucas doesn't live on the streets. He carries his own scars, just like me. And that's why I know he's a real man. The words came out with intensity, each syllable reinforcing his decision. And I'm not going to let you make me feel guilty about it. Anthony opened his mouth, but the words failed him. He seemed lost, struggling to find an argument that could convince her. Bianca, I just want a chance to be the father you deserve. We can be a family. A family? You talk about family as if it wasn't your choices that destroyed it all. Bianca stood up, indignation pulsing through her. I'm not going back to the past. I've already found someone who really loves me. As Bianca looked at Anthony, she felt like she was letting go of a weight that had been with her for a long time. Her decision was clear, and she would not hesitate to defend it. With one last look, she turned and left the cafe, determined to return to Lucas, the man who had helped her rediscover life and the beauty that came with it. Every step was an act of courage, a step further away from the past, and a step towards a future that promised hope and love. Lucas watched the city from his small apartment, a mixture of longing and despair squeezing his chest. The sound of the rain hitting the windows reminded him of the internal storm he was facing. Bianca and Anthony's meeting echoed in his mind like a hammer on a piece of glass. The fragility of his feelings was exposed, and he feared that at any moment everything would shatter. The next day, when he entered Bianca's studio, Lucas noticed that the atmosphere was different. She was quieter, almost introspective, and her eyes, which used to shine with an intense light, now seemed cloudy. "Hi, Lucas," she said, trying to force a smile, but the sadness in her gaze didn't go unnoticed. "Hi, Bianca. Are you all right?" He moved closer, but the distance between them seemed greater than ever. I met Anthony yesterday," she replied, her voice cracking slightly. Lucas felt a chill run down his spine. He wants to meet the baby. "I see," Lucas murmured, trying to stay calm, even though the storm inside him was intensifying. "What do you think I should do?" Bianca looked at him for guidance, but Lucas was lost in his own thoughts. He didn't know whether to be honest or protect his heart. "Lucas, I don't know what to think. Part of me still feels the pain of what happened." You don't have to feel guilty about it, Lucas replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. But you need to think about what's best for you and your son. I want you to know that you're important to me, that our conversations and the art we've created together. All of this has helped me find a new perspective, Bianca said, but the insecurity in her voice was clear. Lucas felt his heart squeeze as he observed her vulnerability. He wanted to comfort her, but the thought of Anthony haunted her like a shadow. That night, alone, Lucas gave himself over to the pain. He remembered every moment when Bianca had shown herself to be strong, every laugh shared, every tear. But now he felt like he was competing with a ghost. Maybe I'm not the man she needs, he muttered to himself, looking at the paintings he hadn't finished yet. She deserves someone who doesn't have so many scars. Determined to get away so that she could find a way without him, Lucas picked up his things. However, before he could leave, he heard the studio door open. It was Bianca, with watery eyes and a look of despair. "Lucas, please don't go," she spoke, her voice choked with emotion. "I don't want to lose you. You're everything to me. Bianca, you have to understand. I'm not the man who can give you what you need right now. Anthony he's the father of your child. You have to give him a chance," Lucas replied, feeling a sharp pain in his chest. He wanted to hug her, but the thought of being a burden in her life was unbearable. "I don't want Anthony. I don't want to go back to him," Bianca exclaimed, frustration overflowing. "I want you. You helped me see the beauty in scars, Lucas. I can't lose that." "I'm not a hero, Bianca. I'm just a broken man trying to find his place in the world," Lucas said, his voice lower now. "And if you decide to give him a chance, I can't stand here and wait." The silence that followed was heavy, almost palpable. Bianca felt heartbroken, and Lucas, with tears in his eyes, knew that what he was doing was for her own good. "Please don't do this. Don't leave me like this," Bianca begged, but Lucas had already made up his mind. "I need to get away," he replied, his voice firm but broken. "You need to find out who you really are, and I can't be an obstacle on that path." And so he left the studio, leaving Bianca alone among her paintings. Despair settled in her heart, and she realized that, despite all her insecurities, her connection with Lucas was deeper than she could have imagined. She needed to fight for him, not just for her own happiness, but for the bond they had formed through pain and art. With a heavy heart, Bianca began to work on a new painting. Each brushstroke became a silent cry of love and despair. She knew she needed to win back Lucas' trust, but above all, she needed to understand her own feelings. The road ahead would be difficult, but she was willing to face it because life was made up of colors and scars, and she was determined to find true beauty on her journey. Bianca was in her studio, the soft light of late afternoon filtering through the dusty windows. The smell of fresh paint still hung in the air, but what enveloped her most was a sense of vulnerability and hope. With her hands trembling slightly, she prepared her new canvas. The idea that consumed her was a representation of what she felt for Lucas, an ex-soldier who, like her, was battling inner demons. Looking at the blank canvas, she felt she needed to create something that not only expressed her love, but also symbolized the union of their stories. When night fell, Bianca turned on the lights in the studio and carefully organized everything. She had invited Lucas and a few close friends to a small gathering where she would unveil her new painting. Anxiety pulsed in her chest, but there was also a firm determination. She knew she had to show Lucas how much he meant to her. The painting, which was almost finished, was an explosion of vibrant colors, with strokes that symbolized their scars, but also the beauty they had found in their lives. When Lucas arrived, his eyes lit up as he entered the studio. He had always admired Bianca's space, full of works that reflected her raw emotions. "Bianca, you look stunning," he commented, a shy smile forming on his face. "What have you prepared for us tonight?" "I hope you're ready for something special," she replied, her voice a little sick. "I want you to see what I've done." She guided him to the canvas, her heart pounding. "This painting is about us, about everything we've been through together." Lucas looked at the work, and for a moment his breathing stopped. Incredible," he murmured, his eyes watering. "You've captured so many emotions here. It's as if I can feel every brush stroke." "I've put everything I feel for you into this painting," Bianca said, moving closer to him, feeling the deep connection that had always existed between them. "You showed me that pain can be transformed into art, into something beautiful. And I don't want you to think that I'm not here, that I don't want you. You're my priority." Lucas looked at her with a mixture of surprise and emotion. "Bianca, I don't know what to say. I fought so hard to open up, to believe that I deserve this. But I'm also afraid that my past might hurt you. I'm no longer the same person I was before your affection came into my life," she replied, her eyes shining. "Every scar I carry has brought me to you, and I want to face any challenge by your side. Please, don't leave me." He moved closer, and the tension between them grew until Lucas took courage and, in a soft voice, said, "You don't have to worry. What I feel for you is real. I just need to learn to trust that the past won't affect us, that we can build a future together. We can do that, Lucas. Let's support each other. The art we create together can be our refuge, our safe space," she said, feeling the energy between them intensify. He finally smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his face. "You're the light I needed in the darkness. I'm here, and I want to be by your side." With that, Bianca leaned forward, and with a delicate gesture, their lips met. It was a soft kiss, but full of promise and hope. There, in the studio surrounded by the colors and scars that had become part of their lives, they realized that together they could weather any storm that was yet to come. Art was not just a form of expression, but a bond that united them, a way of recognizing that the beauty of life was, in fact, in the scars they both carried. Anthony watched the television screen with a mixture of anger and envy. The report on Bianca and Lucas' exhibition played on an endless loop, highlighting the couple's happiness and the depth of the art they had created together. "How can she be so happy without me?" he muttered, his teeth clenched in frustration. He couldn't bear the thought that Bianca had overcome her abandonment and found a love that seemed genuine. With an abrupt gesture, he turned off the TV and picked up his cell phone. "She's not going to get rid of me that easily," thought Anthony, as he typed a message. He knew he had to act. With a quick tap, he sent a message to some acquaintances, spreading rumors about Lucas. "Did you know he's an ex-soldier? I hear he has mental problems. Do you really think it's safe for Bianca to be with him?" he wrote. With a bitter smile, he sent the message, satisfied that he had planted the seeds of discord. Meanwhile, Bianca was in her studio, surrounded by paints and canvases. The familiar smell of the materials calmed her, but the happiness she had felt before began to fade when she heard rumors about Lucas. It was during a conversation with a friend that she heard the slander. "Have you heard about Lucas? They say he's unstable, that he's not a good influence on you, and that he could be dangerous," said her friend, her eyes full of concern. "That's absurd," Bianca replied, anger growing inside her. "He's an incredible artist, and, more importantly, he makes me feel alive." "I'm not going to let that change how I feel about him. Determined to confront Anthony, Bianca decided that she would not allow him to control her life again. She arranged to meet him at a cafe where they used to go together, a place that now carried bitter memories. When Anthony arrived, she noticed that he was trying to maintain an appearance of confidence, but his treacherous eyes gave away the insecurity that accompanied him. "Bianca, you don't understand what you're doing," Anthony began, trying to put on a semblance of concern. "Lucas isn't what he seems. He's complicated." "Complicated? How can you say that to me, Anthony?" Bianca replied, her voice tight. "You're the one who left me, who decided to get on with your life without caring about me or our son. Now you're coming back to tell me what to do?" The tension increased, and the eyes around the cafe began to focus on the discussion. "You don't know anything about what I've been through. He'll always be here for you, Bianca. Don't realize too late that Lucas is just using you as a crutch," he snapped, the coldness in his voice echoing off the walls. "Enough, Anthony. You no longer have control over my life," Bianca exclaimed, indignation pulsing through her veins. "I'm no longer the girl you abandoned. I've grown up. I've become someone who is strong, who has found another love, who doesn't need you to be happy." Those words seemed to cut Anthony like a knife, but he wasn't willing to give up. "What if I tell you that he can't be trusted, that he has a dark past?" he teased, trying to shake Bianca's confidence. "I know the pain he carries," Bianca replied, her voice now more serene but firm. "And he knows mine. That's why we're so close. I won't let you ruin it with your lies." Anthony, realizing he was losing control, tried to deliver one last blow. "You'll regret all this, Bianca. Remember, I'm the one who knows your secrets." Bianca stood up, determination shining in her eyes. "The only secrets I have are about how much I've freed myself from you. And if you try to hit me again, I won't hesitate to expose your lies to everyone. I'm stronger now." With that, she turned and left the cafe, feeling the weight of the words still hanging in the air. Her heart was racing, but she knew she had made the right choice. On her way back to the studio, she ran into Lucas, who was waiting for her with a worried expression. "Are you all right?" he asked, noticing the tension on her face. "Anthony tried to manipulate me again, but I stood up to him," Bianca replied, determined. "I'm not going to let him ruin what we have." Lucas pulled her close, and she felt safe in his arms. "I knew you could do it. Your strength is admirable." And so, with renewed courage, Bianca and Lucas moved into the future, leaving the dark past behind. Lucas' upcoming exhibition at a famous gallery represented not only their healing, but the transformation of their scars into beauty and strength. Anthony, on the other hand, found himself increasingly isolated, facing the consequences of his actions and losing the chance to be part of Bianca and her son's lives. The colors of Bianca's life, now vibrant and full of hope, finally began to shine, and she knew she had found her place alongside Lucas. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time.